This second session, we decided to get the title "Managing Your Own Path" and Try and Fail. What's different? What's changed, I think, in this industry, and this is my own opinion, is that digital companies and startups have shown the market that you can venture yourself into trying things in different scale and seeing if it works and then building on that. I think traditional companies, we were much more scared into trying things, and we really developed things and took a lot of time developing things to try it out in the market because this fear of failing was something that created, I say, it was a big fear. So what in my work as a consultant with startups or fintechs, I love the way some of them approach is, we're going to try it in this market, we're going to try it with these customers, we're going to see if it works, and if it fails, it fails. That's something that's a learning thing, and of course, I wish as parents we could do that. This is my son, I'm going to try something in him, didn't work, okay, fail, next. No, it doesn't work that way in everything in life, but in business, I think this is something that is interesting as a concept, and that's why I put it there. But managing your own path, what I mean is, every digital transformation that I have encountered, I have learned that there is no template for that. I mean, you can have two startups, they probably have the same vision of where they want to go. It's just there is no template for that. I think every company has to find their own path. And sometimes everybody, I see some of you guys agreeing with that, but it is, you're always looking at what is going to happen, but it's like anything you do in life. If you don't start walking into it and experiencing and trying things, you will never know what's going next. And I see companies. Yes, I see companies that have tried this and tried that and failed. Yes, when you fail 4 or 5 times, you have to look at yourself and say, what am I doing wrong? And sometimes that's when you need a consultant that says, I don't know what we're doing wrong, and sometimes it's many things. It's your approach to your market, is your own team, is your own targets, whatever it is, as Eric was saying, well, it depends on what do you want. A startup always goes, number of users. That's what the investors want. And as you look at all the new kids in the block in the cross-border payments, that's the number that keeps on happening. Number of users. And then if you go a little bit different, then you go as active users. And sometimes you have number of users, 10 million active users, 50,000. So, I mean, you have what's going on there. Of course, there's much more data to that, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. But this is just my introduction to say that what's important in every digital process is to understand that is a journey. It's a journey that takes time. It's a journey that you might go through failures, but it's a journey that is never ending. I mean, if you think that some companies, digital companies, they say, we're there. They're never there, You know that there's always dreams in I'm going to develop this, I want this in my product. So the journey, the digital journey is never ending. It's just a pathway, and that has to be understood that way. And I asked Alex Pereira to join us because I want him to relate, and he was open enough to say, yes, Hugo, I'll tell my journey. I tell as my company what I have done, the things that I've felt for me, and that's why I want to tell your story. I thank your honesty in coming and showing because that's also a new attitude in this business, you know. I mean, and it's a generational thing too, you know. But you told us the first time we met is I have learned more from my failures than for the things that I've done right, and that for me was okay. Yes. So come on.
Thank you so much, Hugo. So in general, when Hugo asked me to kind of interpret a little bit of my experience and share with you, not just share with you, because we want to make this a little bit open, and we want to make sure that everybody gets a little bit of the feedback. The idea for controlling your own path has been to me something that when I started this company, I was really solving my problem. Before I was even in this world of payments, I was actually running a television production company. And I came to this because I needed to solve my own problem. I had payrolls of producers and cameramen and soundmen and drivers and production assistants and location and so many people around the world that were my outsourced for in several countries. So we did a lot of production for news corporations, Univision, Newsweek, CNN. And what we end up doing is we were doing coverage on very specific situations that were happening around the world. And my biggest challenge was, great, I can get a cameraman, I can get a soundman, I can get somebody in front of the camera within 2 hours. So we were good at that. My biggest problem is, how do I get this person paid? They're not in my payroll. Most likely they don't even have a bank account. And if they have a bank account, how do I get people paid within a decent amount of time? So of course, Western Union and all of you guys were there to solve that problem. The situation for us is that if you're in a business, money remittance is fantastic. It solves a problem between families, and the cost is what the cost is. But when you're running a business and your cost of sending money around the world is a big portion of your budget, then it's an issue. At least it's an issue that needs to be paid attention to and solved. So for me personally, it was, okay, how and why is there such a cost in moving money around for businesses? And we're talking about 2010, 2012. And then that's when I started going into this cross-border payment world, and it was really to solve my own problem. And I'm taking that because when you go into any startup, I believe, any startup that wants to go out and sell a product, I believe that there has to be a clear project or problem that you're solving. Because if you're not really solving a problem, if it's just a luxury for an additional product that you might not need, it might be an app, super cool, and it might just sit there on your phone and you'll never use it again. And I know a lot of those cases have happened. So when we're in the payments world, the payment or the idea of moving money around the world is complicated. So we are solving a problem. So that clear is what we're doing. So what the difference is, how do we solve the problem? We have now technology, we have more regulation, we have faster movements, so faster payments. So in general, what we saw is the opportunity of going and taking my problem and now making a solution that was not just for my TV production world. So that's when I decided to kind of go in, explore, and not only solve my own problem. I was now looking into B2B cross-border payments, and that's when I started PMI Americas. And this is what we all believe a startup is going to look like. I know where we're going. It's fantastic. It's so easy. I just need to solve my problem and somebody else's problem. The beautiful thing is that nothing, of course, is as you expect. And that's when I realized that to really go forward and stay your path, you kind of have to be conscient that the end is still the same. Let's just say that the objective or the product is still there. Whatever you had that product initially set out to do, it shouldn't be changing every time you have a problem. That target should not move too much. And for us was, okay, getting people paid. Business to business, cross-border payment solution. That was it. Now, all the hurdles that we had came to technology, banking, regulation, speed, liquidity. So all these things start to come alive, and that's when the problems come, and that's when you really have to react. And for me, meeting Hugo here, funny enough, when I first came here in 2018, was my first attempt into going into the payments world. And this conference, IMTC, was my first exposure to cross-border payments. And I took the compliance course, because the first thing I said, look, I need to understand this world, and I know that this is highly sensitive. We're moving money around, so compliance is key. And that's when that was a huge learning experience, that the compliance. If you understand compliance, you understand your potential holes or your traps. So in general, for what we were trying to solve, it was not just my own problem now, it was really responsibility. And that's one thing that we all should know, is the responsibility of holding people's money, moving people's money. So in general, I think that what we are now trying to do, or not just us as a company, but as a sector, is how do we really make that payment faster, better, and have responsibility in it. And that's when I really want to move a little bit more, because this really paints a picture of some of our startups, and I know some of the established businesses also go through a lot of these situations. Just because you're an established company, I know there's a lot of you guys who have been here for 20 plus years doing money remittances. It doesn't mean you don't face these situations, or it doesn't mean that you don't have to innovate. Because every time there's a cycle, now there's crypto. So if you're a traditional money sending company and you're very comfortable and you've been doing great and your agent is there and you're moving money around, crypto is disruptive. It is, and it will disrupt this industry. If you're not prepared and you're not ready and aware of where these situations are going to happen, it might be where your company starts to go down. So I think that our biggest lesson has been learning a lot from those mistakes, from those failures, but not just learning from it and like saying, whew, thank God I survived. It's going back and analyzing what took us to that failure. And that failure could be they shut down an account, or that failure could be an AML situation. So if you don't come out stronger from any of those little failures or any one lesson, it's a missed opportunity. I would think that yes, all the failures, all the mistakes, everything that comes your way should be a step up. You should always come out stronger after that. And I actually want to open just a little bit to some of the people here. How many are startups or within the past 4 or 5 years started their company? So mostly established businesses. Now, like I said, it doesn't mean that because you're not a startup as a big company that you don't have to be aware of the same situations. And I think that one of the key factors here in innovation is not just technology. And I want to ask some of you what you consider innovation is, because innovation can be from changing your customer service to changing your strategy marketing to changing new countries to changing technology. So I want to take at least one person, if they want to share what your thought is on innovation and what that has done to your company. Anybody? How has your company interpreted innovation, and what has it done for your company? Eric.
So I mentioned I work on crypto before there, and I'm working with a blockchain type company which does the crypto side. Thank you. And we're trying to find the way in order to marry this to address the need of the remittances, cross-border payments, and the level of innovation that's required from a product standpoint, from a compliance standpoint. It's a lot more than we expected. And I think that there's a huge gap still there between crypto and remittances. Yeah. Is my answer going to say, all right, all these remittance companies are going to go out of business because we've got crypto now? Absolutely not. And finding the level of innovation on how to be a collaborator with the existing on one component, I think has been toning it down to saying we're going to change the world to we're going to change this functionality within this industry, within this segment.
Yeah, thank you. Yes. Like I said, innovation is what you believe will change or will take your company to the next level. And I think we should never stop innovating. And yes, technology is a huge component. And one of the factors that I guess can take your company to the next level is technology, and it is important to understand that today, as we stand here today, 2022, closing the year, technology has changed our industry dramatically, even from when I started, even 4 years or 5 years ago. We didn't have the software tools that we do for AML, the monitoring, the AI that is into the system, the blockchain technology. So this has transformed significantly just in the past few years. I mean, COVID pushed it to the max. So innovating is surviving, and innovating is the evolution. And I don't mean that only in technology, although yes, it is that huge component. And this is one of the last things that I want to show you guys, and this is somebody who's very famous, Simon Sinek. I don't know if anybody's familiar with this, but this is they call it the golden circle. And it's a beautiful exercise that I recommend for everybody, even older companies, newer companies. And it's the way we look at how we do things. 90% of the companies on earth fall under the what, and they focus on what we do. What we do remittances. All right, great. So we do cross-border payments. How we do it? We have license in different states, and then we move money around the world. Why we do it? Because there's a market and there's a need for it. That is the most companies approach it. And what this exercise is telling us is let's start doing it inversely. Let's start with why we do it. Build your strategy on why you do that same business, and you'll see how starting is not that easy. I mean, if you just think of why you do things and why this business and why we move money, it starts to slowly change the way that you might even look at it. So why we move money? Maybe one Venezuelan company wants to solve, and they really want to see how Venezuela payments can be better. And that is a good why. So now how? Okay, how do we do it? Maybe they do a card. Maybe there's an app that does crypto, RTM. And at the end is what we do. So when you construct your core out of the why we do things, you start to have, in my opinion, you have to start a little bit more visibility on the core values, and I know that might sound corny, but in the core values of why this company, and you believe that a lot of your employees, if they understand this, they will follow you longer than if they just believe on the what. If your own employees, your own customers, or your own management and sales understand the why we're doing, it becomes a little bit more of an investment. And I think that has been at least our component. And when we started my company, at the end, I was only trying to solve a payment for myself, but I was aware that if that cameraman received less money on my transaction, he was never going to work for me again. So it was important for me to make sure that he got 100% of the money, and I only had 2 hours to get him, because in 2 hours, that cameraman had to be in some remote part of the world with a camera going live on TV. So for me, it became why move the money is because I need to be faster, better than whatever the alternative is. And that's a little bit of how I've at least seen my approach. I've solved my problems, but again, this is something that everybody should be looking inside, because we should never be, call it comfortable with what we have. The world is changing so fast, so dynamic, that yes, today you might be sitting on top, like Facebook. And tomorrow, you might have a lot of problems, and your stock might be not what it's worth anymore. So I just said, don't get comfortable, innovate, evolve, and do partnerships. That's my last thing, but you can help me with that.
No, but before you go to that, you're talking about innovation. And I was looking at who I wanted to put into the spot. So, and I thought, Danny Ayala, I'm going to put him in the spot. I mean, you work with Wells Fargo, very established institution. I mean, you did a great work keeping that bank doing remittances, which is almost the one and only. Yes, and we know how much you fought for it. Now, you've been consulting, and I thought with the fintech, Welcome Tech, I think. Yes, I would love to hear your point of view. And I was going to ask you just a question to yourself, but you're sitting here, so I'm going to put you on the spot. Tell me about that experience in seeing a company, Welcome Tech, which I think is developing a mobile wallet for migrants, for Hispanic migrants. Is that what it? Yeah. Tell me, your point of view. Hearing Alex talk about innovation, about the path. What's your point of view? Yes.
Thank you, and thank you for giving me the word. So yeah, I've been consulting for roughly about 4 months. So I'm an executive advisor for Welcome Tech, but I also advise a few other firms. Actually, Uniteller is one of my key clients present here. Also, a company in Singapore, a fintech in Guatemala, an emerging fintech in the Middle East, and a company in Canada. So it's been pretty good business, and all just people knocking on my door. Welcome Tech is a unique company because they actually started as Saberes Poder, and Saberes Poder is been in the Mexican consulates for 22 years. They are the financial education arm that is present on every single Mexican consulate in the U.S. And between 2003 and 2007, the 4 major banks in the U.S. invested about $10 million in them to provide financial literacy services to people from Mexico that were coming in to get the Matrícula Consular, which was newly issued. And so the average consulate in the U.S. has about 1.2 million people going through the doors, and they created a huge database with tens of millions of customers. So they focused on education and sponsorships, and 8 years into it, realized that the banks no longer were interested because they had already acquired those customers. Wells Fargo at that time acquired about 1.8 million customers through that venue, and decided to move on to the next thing, and the next thing was a fintech. So having left Wells Fargo, they knocked on my door. I built a financial services practice for them, and it's been a journey. They raised $78 million from SoftBank, Owl Ventures, and Mubdala Capital. They're founders, operators. So it's sort of a touch and go because they want to do things that you can't do, right? But the spirit of innovation in allowing people who don't understand financial services but want to do things differently is significant. And I think that was a big eye-opener for me, because walking in the door, I was ready to say no many times. And what the journey that I went through during the first 3 months, I mean, we bumped heads all the time, to the point that I would say, this is not going to be a Zoom conversation. I'm getting on a plane from San Francisco to LA because we need to talk about this face-to-face. And people that know me know I'm extremely direct when it comes to business. And we would get the lawyers, and we would get the advisors, and we would get some of the investors, and we would agree to take risk to the extent that we would allow ourselves to take that risk. And so our key partner is Green Dot Bank, and they've been making some interesting headlines lately, right? So it's been a journey, and we've done some things that are not out on the open yet. They will be pretty soon. We're very excited. Back to your point, you're king of the hill for a limited period of time, and overnight, you're no longer that. So, those new startups that are flush with money, and I've seen them, some in the blockchain space, some in the new aggregators that are coming in, and I see the amount of money that they're burning. I just came from the Singapore FinTech Festival, and I was at Money 2020 before that, and I see this money being burned, right? And I see the fancy events and the cocktail parties and all these things going on. But in some of those cases, I'm not seeing innovation. So at some point in time, they're going to lose the luster that they have on the name, and someone else is going to come from right under. And I was just meeting with a Bangladeshi entrepreneur in Singapore, helped him raise $10 million from a fund in Singapore, and he's on the quiet stage, not making noise, because he's got something new, pretty cool, with stable coins. And he said, let's go make noise. I said, no, build it. Because the minute you build it and you go out public, you're going to have 10 copies of these worldwide. and you can't move fast enough. So, and he's probably going to dethrone at least one of these big aggregators that are out there because he's got a better solution. So I'd say it's tough. It's really tough to stay on top, to be number one. You know, I'm looking at my friends from Sewana here, and, you know, my hat's off to them. Money 2020, Singapore, 4 years ago, they launched their bank in the Philippines. Their competitors, whom I know, said, you know, they're crazy. How can they have a bank and try to bank the unbanked in the Philippines and do it in pawn shops? And you have north of 50 million customers already in the platform. The banks are scratching their head looking at what these guys have accomplished, and, you know, they've done an outstanding job. But that's it. It's sort of looking for the edge that you haven't tried to reach, and you know, almost like thriving on that edge of chaos where you almost like you could fall, but if you take that risk, you may just make it. But it takes the guts to do that. And the incumbents typically are too comfortable, right? You know, you look at Wells Fargo, I mean, they're too comfortable. You look at the big banks, they're too comfortable. You look at the big established companies, I won't say their names because they're here, and guess what? Some of their competitors, are eating their lunch today. So that's that.
Thank you. Good. I wanted to hear his point of view, which is interesting. Are you?
Hi, everyone. I was here earlier, Priscilla Friedman, CEO of CrossTech. I want to tell you a little story before I start. So 10 years ago, please don't count my age, I was working at American Express, learning all the credit card business. And I remember in the beginning of my career, we launched a prepaid card. And we had a whole GNS LATAM division screaming, oh yes, we are taking off cash, we are launching prepaid. It was a wonderful opportunity. And now, the clock is ticking, right? And now we're talking about prepaid card. Wow. We are evolved. We are doing so much more than that. We are digital. We have so many solutions in the market. And sometimes I ask myself, which solution for what, when, and for how much? So I don't know if you know this. I joined this new challenge and opportunity about a year ago. And when I came into the conference for the first time last year, I was 20 days on the job. If you didn't know that, I probably faked it really well. But here I am, 12 months after, and we are now talking about being a consultant in our own conference. And this is something we manage pretty separately. So a year went by, and what I told Hugo, I saw an opportunity for us to have CrossTech conferences, CrossTech consulting, and CrossTech digital products. And that's how our consulting division have grown in the last 12 months. And what I can tell you is I cannot solve all your problems with some of my experts, part of my board of directors that are sitting here. I have a digital expert, I have an HR champion, I have, where's Nabil, the technology guru, and we also have a lawyer. So for all the regulatory things that you need. I have customers with different problems. I have some customers that are just like Alex's story. That's why it makes me really understand what you're going through, reality. And I've seen in the last 12 months, and Hugo in the last, 15 years, don't count his age, we have seen basically every problem that a company could go through, and they call us for a solution. And we haven't seen partnerships that worked, partnerships that didn't work, and we wouldn't recommend. And we have a menu of partners and referral agreements with specific companies that we trust, that we've been implementing with them, that is at your choice and available for you. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about how our consulting division work, how I have used some of my credit card, prepaid, now evolution experience to where we are today, along with Hugo's expertise to provide products and services for each one of you guys. And I agree with you, Dani Ayala. I've called 89 banks to be here today, and I was only able to get 4. And they told me, I'm not ready. I'm not ready to open US bank accounts for cross borders. And I said, are you ready next year? Because time to the market is here. So you need to be ready, if not you're gonna stay behind. So name it, US Bank, talk to them. Citibank, talk to them. Bank of America, talk to them. So in the last 12 months, I've been trying to break into the banking industry to be able to offer service to you. So I ask you one thing. Every bank company that are here today to open bank accounts in the US, please thank them because they're open-minded and they want to be able to provide solutions to each one of you. And if you are stuck in a problem with digital, looking for solutions, like you said, Dani, there is so many solutions out there, but which one works? Which one works for my market in the Philippines, or which one works for my market in Mexico, or which one works if I want to enter Spain, right? 3 totally different countries, totally different capabilities, and you want to work with a partner you trust. So I wanted to spend this time to talk a little bit about what we've been building in the last 12 months. We are growing. We have new partners. As you can see, some of the sponsors that are here today are a bit different than last year. And this is just the beginning. And I wanted to spend this time so you can hear our mindset, how we're thinking, and how we are using the assets of our partnerships to help you position to the market to succeed. Because we only do referrals for companies that we have seen success. And that's why Hugo is also launching the book and all our stories in writing so that way you guys can accompany us. And I think after my session, we actually invited 2 partners, and I don't know where Hugo is, but 2 partners that are gonna talk a little bit about their journey and how their partnerships have worked with some of our clients and also some of the people that are here today. So I'd like to invite Hugo to discuss partnerships, but if he's not here, I'll become Hugo too.
But maybe we have a Q&A. I don't know if we can do that.
Sure.
And the last thing I forgot to say, one of my experiences is execution is key.
Yes.
That is it. I mean, you can be a startup, you can be established, people will come back to you because execution, and it's the hardest thing to do when you're a startup, to execute on what you're preaching. It's great to have money, like you said, you can have all the money in the world, but when you fail to execute and your processes and your technology fails, that's when you really, it doesn't matter how much money you have, that's when you really fall through. Anyways.
Let's open for Q&A if you guys have any questions for us. Anyone? We want to make it conversational.
Need some coffee here.
Yes. No questions? No comments?
What do you consider has been your biggest challenge in getting to where you are at now?
Execution, really. My biggest challenge has been we can think of a better process, a better payment, better rates, better coverage, but the moment that everything it's like an orchestra, everything has to be perfect for that to be flawless, and that includes technology, make sure that those APIs work and they do what they're supposed to do, make sure your compliance is solid, that nothing goes through, and then you don't have a problem with AML or anything like that. Your banking rails have to work, because you can promise, oh, you have a big client, oh, they're going to move about $10 million a month, great. Is your bank aware that you're going to do these huge clients? Are they okay with that? So, yes, having that, let's just say that orchestra very well tuned is the biggest challenge, and has always been, and it will never stop being. So never get comfortable. Just because you have a great compliance officer, a great monitoring system, great banking relationship, doesn't mean they're not going to change at some point. So that's still the weakest.
Yeah, I just kind of wanted to get a sense of, the reality versus perception. So how many of you still feel that banks are not helping in move forward fintech innovation? Just by a quick show of hands, I just want to get a sense of what the feel is right now. All right. So it's maybe about almost half of the room. You know, if we go back to 2006, where this conference was held in Fort Lauderdale, in a much smaller hotel than this one, I think the entire room was up in arms because Bank of America had just shut down their whole MSB banking operation. And very few banks were in the business. So this story repeats itself, right? And so I think there's an opportunity for those of you who didn't raise your hand. Clearly, you found the bank. It's an opportunity for someone to take the lead and kind of create a consortium of the banks that are in the business, that are supporting it, and create more movement because, you know, sharing is caring, like my granddaughters say, right? And I think, you know, if you have more banks participating and feeling comfortable with each other being in this business, they will help you and you will help them get more business. So just some food for thought.
And just one good point. We were recently with Alberto and a few other of us, we were lucky enough to be at a very special event at Wharton and talking about crypto and technology and blockchain. And we all know it's happening. And I can tell you, and probably some of us were there, this is happening faster than you think and faster than anybody really is aware of. Blockchain, crypto payments, and I don't mean Bitcoin payments, I mean the ability to move money on stable coins and the ability to use blockchain technology in the payment sector is going to be moving very fast. And of course, I know Eric knows that. This is really, it cannot catch you guys or anybody in our sector asleep. This is Napster happening to the record labels, but we see it coming. So in a way don't be afraid to explore, to learn more about blockchain and how eventually crypto, stable, not stable, doesn't matter how eventually, but the blockchain technology is here to stay and it's going to be, I believe, beneficial. Once it's put into order and when there's protocols and once things do not fall through the cracks like FTX, it should be hugely beneficial to cross-border payments.
Yes, Nabil? Okay, let's any other comments, questions, ideas? Really?
So somebody asked about a challenge for Alex and what was his biggest challenge, and I really respect the conversation on crypto and the adoption and innovation. So I think this question is for Alex, but it's for anybody as well in the crypto. So FTX just filed, Chapter 11. When you look at BTC and crypto custodian, I think, it reminds me of the Lehman, Bear Stearns, and the debacles when we all had a ton of assets with Morgan Stanley, Goldman, and everybody else. Now, Crypto.com's getting shot at, Coinbase is, there's a lot of risk associated with having your crypto custodian on an exchange. So I think this is a real life challenge, like literally today. I see you shaking your head, and I know, Alex, you're shaking. On the challenge side, what would you recommend for anybody that's getting into the crypto side we're pretty cautious about dipping our toes into it since we're pretty comfortable in what we do? Do you have any ideas or recommendations for new people or even current people to mitigate risk and loss on potentially what's about to happen in the next few weeks?
I'll give you my opinion, and again, it's my personal opinion. I believe that, yes, the exchanges are going through a cycle from babies to teenagers to adults. And I think particularly the FTX is one of those victims, Lehman Brothers type. But yes, I also believe that there should be some oversight. There should be protocols in place to protect people's assets. I think there's a lot of technology and a lot of good effort into creating exchanges. But I think there's more technology than asset management skills. And at the end of the day, when you put money in an exchange, most people are going to leave it there thinking that it could, at least in BTC, that it could grow over time. So that is an asset. And to manage an asset requires some oversight. I'm not preaching that this should be completely under SEC or anything, but I'm just saying it is not the same thing to have a platform that is unregulated, or at least let's just say that doesn't have a lot of oversight. And then what you have all this money, what can you do when you start lending money? You don't know what to do. So my personal opinion is eventually some of the exchanges should mature. They should approach it with more delicacy and more protocols to protect their clients. But I think it's here to stay. I think exchanges and the ability for people to hold digital currencies and speculate or not speculate or leave it there because maybe you're offsetting your local currency. Maybe you live in Argentina or in Colombia and your local currency is devaluating really badly. So maybe you park your money in USDC, so you're not taking a huge risk. So there's a lot of use, still really good use, but I think, yes, it is a process that needs to still refine.
So it's been, since I met you, this is what you've done. And so tell us a little bit about your journey and how you see the industry in these years that you've been working with different companies, different startups, and now with Neofi, and how that has come to be.
Thank you, Hugo. Yeah, a little correction by the way. We have people from Western Union now. You have Hassan and Rodrigo right here visiting, and they're launching something interesting too, but the world is changing. And as Eric was saying, the world is changing and we're always evolving. We have new technology and new ways of doing business. And Western Union is here, so that's a change as well. And I think we have people from MoneyGram too, so welcome guys. And look, the other thing that Eric said that struck me is you have to specialize at some point, right? And whether we like it or not, we all outsource. Right? You outsource your office space. You're not going to go build an office and service it. You outsource your phone system. You outsource your computers. You're not building hardware. So when people talk about outsourcing and partnering and versus I want to build everything, I kind of start laughing because say nobody ever builds everything. You're always outsourcing parts. The difference is there's some parts you are used to see being outsourced, like office space, and there are parts that could be new for you to be outsourced. But a lot of the future lies there, because nobody wants to build everything. And the key, I think, to a company, and what I've learned throughout these years is, first of all, figure out what your core business is. What's your raison d'etre? What do you create? What are you good at? And what value add do you bring to the ecosystem? If it's customer acquisition, then that's your core. If it's operations and a special type of money transfer system or special relationships that you have, and or maybe just the breadth of the network, there are some things your companies are good at. And from there, figure out what these type of customers want, so what more you can sell them, and just outsource all of it. Because you want to be the best at what you do well, and you want to focus on that and not lose sight of your mission and what made you successful. Now, of course, if it's evolving, you have to keep up with the time, but that to me still is focused on the core. But what happens is a lot of people try to go, well, I'm going to now I'm a money transfer company, now I want to be a bill payment company, I'm going to go and sign up these billers, and I'm going to do it myself. And it'll cost you more, you'll make more mistakes, break more eggs, and ultimately you'll be a good money transfer company with a mediocre billing product that is costing you more than it produces in revenue. Our journey, for example, with Neofi has been just around that. My vision was around the money transfer industry, that our issue is customers switch vendors all the time because of the FX rate, because of whatever the circumstance are. And there's really not been a way to keep customers loyal to your brand beyond constantly having a good FX rate, constantly fighting on the better agents, the ones that have more volume, and marginally trying to improve the product, but the product is somewhat similar to a large extent, and customers are very price sensitive. So what else can we do to loyalize them in a sense? To me, the answer came with the neobanking. Like I can move this relationship from a transactional relationship to a relationship-based approach where I'm somebody who's going to provide you multiple services that are going to fit all your financial needs, including money transfer. And I'm going to plug in my money transfer, and it's going to be the best money transfer there is at what I do well, but all that other stuff. So we started building it, and it's a painful journey. I mean, the specialists in the industry even don't know everything about their own businesses. So you talk to somebody at Visa or MasterCard, and you ask a question, and sometimes they don't even know the answer. The bank doesn't have the answers. The processors don't have the answers. You have to figure all this stuff out. Then you have to build the technology behind it. Then you have to do all the KYC ID verification. Then you got to negotiate on how you can onboard customers that don't have social security numbers, for example. Then you have to figure out if your picture-taking resolution is enough for the company who's detecting the fake IDs to be able to read it. I mean, the devil's in the details, but there are millions and millions of little details to build that if you wanted to undertake on your own, it would be a fortune, and you probably wouldn't end up with a best-in-class product. I mean, knowing what I know now, if somebody was doing what we were doing, I would have turned around and said, give me your product, I'll pay you, and then I'll make it look like mine. It's that complicated. And that's true for many, many things. I mean, you guys have built successful money transfer enterprises. You know how hard it is, and how many years it took, and how much effort, and how much refinement continues coming in. So imagine doing that in other industries. So I have no anxiety, really, about outsourcing, because as long as you figured, and to me, the key is the customer relationship. If you own your customer and you're giving them a key product, then you have that. And that's not gonna, nobody can take away from you. And if you go out and get a card or an app or anything else, and you integrate it and it's being provided by somebody else, to me then it becomes a question of picking the right partner rather than the choice of outsourcing or insourcing. And that picking the right partner, there's a recipe, right? You gotta find somebody who's solid and established that you can trust. They give you the ownership of the customer. They can customize for you to an extent that's reasonable and that will still allow you to get to market quickly. You know, somebody who has a good growth path for their own product that can grow with you. So you don't want a static company that's gonna, they have one product, they're gonna keep it the way it is and they never evolve. So you look at that history a little bit. You know, obviously the branding is important. You want somebody who's partnered. We partner too. So we outsource a lot of our stuff. We don't create a bank account, right? We go to a bank to do a bank account. So you want somebody who's got good relationships behind their own product as well. That's pretty solid. And importantly enough, I think, is kind of your backup assurance is if at some point they stop servicing you for whatever reason, you know, break the contract, they stop performing, there's a mandatory offboarding period where they can transition you to a new platform. And you know, as long as you get that and you own the customer, then you can just switch vendors as things progress. And if you're not satisfied with the vendor, you switch to another one. But that's basically your guarantee of saying, if I don't like this product or it doesn't work for me, or at some point we have a fallout between us and our outsourcer, I can put it to somebody else who's best in class. And I don't have this whole issue of building it from scratch and reinventing the wheel that's been invented somewhere else. We've, you know, conservatively invested a few $1 million in getting a platform like this off the ground. So imagine, and then people get to get that product for tens of thousands, right? And so you go, well, how much do I need in time and volume just to recuperate the investment that I would put if I build it from scratch? And the answer becomes very, very clear, right? And so, you know, I think to me, the game is better to try to figure out who's the right partner and why you're partnering and why is that the right product for you versus the choice of building in-house.
So I guess your point of view in your digital path, partnering is key. Correct.
Yeah, I mean, none of us as remitters have built payout networks in country, right? We went to payers and they had their payout network and we partnered with them. But there was no angst of losing the customer because that was how it's done and nobody was anxious about it. It's just kind of a mental framework that you have to break and say, okay, well, I'm comfortable outsourcing this. I should be comfortable outsourcing that part.
Good, good. Questions, comments? Okay, Alberto, tell us a little bit of your journey through partnering, through to even to the growth and to the different products and channels that you have built with Uniteller. Give us that journey and how important for because you know since I met you, I think you've always been a person that has valued partnerships strongly. Correct?
Sure.
Tell us.
Sure, and well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Alberto Guerra. I'm the CEO of Uniteller Financial Services. So our company, we are a cross-border payment processor solution provider for the industry. And yeah, I mean, the way we see our journey is since our group, the Banorte Group, who's the owner of Uniteller, since the Banorte Group acquired Uniteller, it saw in Uniteller as a solution to solve a problem at the bank level in Mexico that was trying to become the top payer of remittances and build a channel for the banking of remittance beneficiaries in Mexico. So at the end of the day, Banorte figured out that it was impossible for them to compete without having a gateway, a tool, a company that will assist them in building the solutions that the group needed. So that's how the decision came about of buying an entity, which resulted in the acquisition of Uniteller back in 2007. So with the acquisition of Uniteller, the first main goal was, okay, so what are the solutions that an institution, in this case, a financial banking institution in LATAM, in particular in Mexico, what this institution needed and how can Uniteller build those solutions for the bank. And as we were drawing, the map as to what Uniteller needed to do, one of the most obvious conclusions was, well, if we're doing this for Banorte, we might as well do it for the rest of financial institutions across LATAM and other regions in the world. So that's how the journey of Uniteller started. And so we not only approached Banorte, but other financial institutions in understanding what were the needs of these institutions back then. So one of the initial needs was the partnership for network solutions. So, if banks or financial institutions in LATAM and other regions struggled to connect with remittance companies because of the priorities, because of the issues regarding compliance, issues regarding priorities in terms of technological integrations, product knowledge, market knowledge. So it became obvious that a solution, like the one Uniteller, as well as other providers already did in the industry, made a lot of sense. So I think that the offering of Uniteller back then was unique in a way that we do not only just became a solution, but also we really looked into, okay, from a payer's perspective, what is a paying institution looking for, and how we can provide that transparency and provide those solutions that back then was not being offered, even though there were already a couple of aggregators. So at the end of the day, I think that's what created our mindset of, okay, what our partners are looking for? Eventually, that translated from network aggregation, providing solutions in integrating originating companies into paying companies, that eventually migrated to, okay, the industry is transforming itself and it's becoming more digital. We saw, back then in the late 2000s, it was very common for financial institutions in LATAM and Asia to have remittance outlets here in the US. Back then, the margins for sending remittances were big enough for them to pay for these outlets, and there were cases of financial institutions that had over 20, 30 locations doing remittances. And eventually, those started to fade out. As the margins became much smaller, it was impossible for these institutions to continue solving this or maintaining this network. So eventually we saw, as also the new opportunity or the new growth of digital companies started to come about, we saw the opportunity of building a digital solution for these institutions as well, and for other business partners. So that's how, probably 10 years ago, we decided to invest on building our digital capabilities. It was a journey, and for our case, it required a lot of commitment, a lot of investment. But going back to what Nabil said, we had some knowledge, and we were committed in making our product available for business partners, hoping and believing that it just made sense for these partners to outsource that from us the same way some of them were already outsourcing other financial services or other products. So we We built this platform and in a way that it could be used by business partners. We truly believe in the partnerships. One of the main benefits that we also provide is that we're not just a fintech, we're a fully licensed remittance company, so that allows us to offer our digital capabilities not only to any type of company that didn't require in setting up license and building a compliance network, so a compliance platform. So at the end of the day, the way we saw in our platform was, be the complete turnkey solution for companies interested in entering the industry. We have seen so many companies, so many new fintechs, so many startups, probably spend tens of millions of dollars in getting licensed, building a compliance team, building a product, and you haven't even tasted the market, if the market is going to accept your value proposition. So why would you invest tens of millions of dollars in building a platform for a market or for a product concept that you have not tested? So our approach has been, outsource, as Nabil was saying, and focus on your core. What's the core values that you are proposing? Is it that you have a customer base that you already have that you want to approach? Is it synergies that you have with other product lines that you can leverage? Okay, let's do synergies with these existing products that we sell with remittances. So what is that value proposition? Partner, test that value proposition, and if everything goes well, then you've proven a point, and then you can eventually say, let's de-risk this, let's take ownership of this part of the process, and then eventually, until it comes a day, once you're already proven your model, where you have full control of your capabilities. So I think that's the value that companies like us that offer these type of solutions allow companies to save a lot of money and a lot of nightmares in building things that don't need to be built, because, and also to Nabil's point, I like when he said, is at the end of the day, you're going to build it, but it's not going to be state of the art. It's not going to be as efficient as apps that are already out there that are really state of the art, and really, because those are the apps that you're going to compete against. So, are you going to be able to build something from scratch from the beginning to become as competitive as whatever is already out there? It's just going to be, it's not that it's going to be impossible, but it's going to take a lot of time and a lot of investment for you to do it. So I think at the end of the day, when you partner with existing service providers that can guarantee that already run and already went through the process and are already capable of providing you a good solution and have access, in this particular case, on our case, have direct access to the network, the direct full licensing capabilities, full regulatory and compliance capabilities. So at the end of the day, leverage that in an efficient way and test your product, test your service, test your value proposition, and then make the decisions later. So that's the approach. We've been transitioning from the, not transitioning, but we continue to provide the network aggregator solutions now with our digital capabilities, and I think that provides us a very good value proposition for companies that want to partner with us. And yes, we're very open to partnerships. We continuously go out and visit companies and try to understand, the industry and the opportunity is so big for everyone, is how can we both do it better if we partner with each other. So that's the approach that we always used, and I think on our case, we try to be the best that we can be to offer value for those partnerships when we sit down to the table with other companies. This is the value that we provide. Try to understand what is the value of the companies that we want to partner with, and where we can build synergies and build on top of that.
Thank you. Thank you, Alberto. Thank you very much. Questions, comments? No. I'm going to, I'm going to make you talk because you're you're a different breed than most everybody here. There's a company that does cash to goods in Africa, and you also, I know you believe in partnering. I know that you like to do a lot of things yourself. Through working with you, I know it's part of your personality, but I want your point of view on that because you built a very interesting network that didn't exist before. I mean, you built it. So give us a little feel about how the journey has been.
Thank you, Hugo.
Introduce yourself, yeah.
My name is Josep Arroyo. I'm based in Barcelona. I work for African migrants. Look, I'm an innovative entrepreneur. I like when I talk to very well-established companies. I used to found software companies, very small, to sell to Coca-Cola, Sony, the largest companies in the world. And when they talk about partnering, I partner you, but you don't partner me. So partnering is about designing a company that is open. Today, we compete in terms of speed. It's not about size, it's about the speed. You are able to reach greater market. You have to able to perform much better if you capitalize someone else's assets. So it's about designing processes. It's about designing. It's a cultural thing at the end of the day. So if you are open, not opening you to others, but others to be open to you, is something that has to be in two directions. Because in general, big companies are very, very closed to innovation and to ponder. But they will like you to use their system. They are not open to use your system. Even when you are a small company, a startup, they don't want to really enter into this new stuff. Anyway, I love partnering. I need partners. I'm actually looking for a partner because I don't want to get into, I asked Hugo to help me because I don't come from this industry. I'm just 5 years in this industry. I come from the software. And I asked, Hugo, please help me because I don't want to enter into the licensing process. It's really complex. And he was training me and my team, and I finally decided not to enter into licensing, for sure. So I'm looking for a partner to get a license to send money to Africa. So someone can send money to Africa. I'm looking for a partner. But as a techie person, I love developing stuff, but the stuff that differentiates myself. That's something that brings really value. So I love in partnering. I need partners. We need partners. You will be faster if you partner, but you have to have the mentality and be really open. The DNA has to be open. Otherwise, you never partner with someone. Sorry.
No, great. I'm glad I gave you the
Thank you.
microphone. Yes. Yeah, but I introduced you to 10% goes here. Okay, you can, yes, of course.
So this is my friend Alberto that I wanted to ask about. Going back to the question that you had originally, as far as what do we do with crypto and all, and I had suggested the sandbox. Is there a potential for an aggregator, for example, to be able to offer that type of functionality by saying, get certain exposure, learn from it by partnering with a crypto company and try to marriage those two worlds together? As I mentioned, there were a presentation a couple weeks ago in Argentina that I was a part of. There's a company called Reserve, and they're doing cross-border payments, they're doing remittances. They're reinventing the wheel on the crypto side there, for example. I don't know how compliant they are, which is a big concern for me, but they're completely outside. But they bring innovative perspective without the level of experience that a uniteller would have. Instead of or in lieu of a sandbox, do you think a partnership would be able to gain sufficient exposure and education, bringing the crypto world to the traditional world?
And I think that that's the way that is going to happen. I mean, definitely I do see a lot of partnership opportunities between the cross-border payment world and the crypto world. The main problem that I see, and one of the main challenges, and in our particular case that is holding us from looking to that step, is in making sure that when we take that step, it's broadly accepted with the banks that we do business with. And I think that's the key challenge, because it's already challenging enough for us to be in cross-border payments and keep our banks happy. So when we go out and talk to them about these crypto opportunities, is that going to put at risk what we already have in terms of our core business? And I think that is going to be the big challenge. The other challenge is, that goes in line with this, is some of these key success stories that have happened with crypto and remittances have to do more with the lack of open market for cross-border payments in countries in LATAM or other regions where there's not clear path or regulation or convertibility like Argentina or like Venezuela. So working, again, if that is your option, that also puts an additional risk into the equation of, oh, it's not only crypto, it's Venezuela, it's Argentina. So I think those are the challenges. I do see opportunities, and I think it's been widely discussed before, of how stable coins can be used for settlement and liquidity issues for companies in the industry. And there are already companies and services doing that and providing that in a successful way, I think. But then it becomes how competitive they are and what are your needs. Are you looking for liquidity or are you looking for pricing? But if you're looking for liquidity and a more efficient way of managing your liquidity, some of these options are really good. And that's where Ripple and other companies that are offering this have become successful in solving part of the equation for existing companies in the industry. So yeah, I do see partnerships, and I do see places where crypto and cross-border can coexist and help from each other. But then challenges, as I said, for companies that want to make this broader. Let's say a broader, freer way of sending transactions to crypto investments, crypto wallets, or countries that are, leveraging on crypto. So I don't know if I answer your questions, but I do see these multiple challenges and opportunities in the space.
Yes.
Yeah, is Bank of America for sale?
Okay. I want you to introduce yourself, and you will do a better job than me, and because as a cross-border payment company, but don't start there. Start a little bit more in your history.
My journey,
because you've been in big companies, and you've done you've done partnering in many different ways. So tell us.
Well, first off, thank you for having me, and lots of wise words. And I know I'm between here and our reception, where there's no doubt lots of partner discussion opportunities here. So I hear really interesting questions that I think we should continue the discussion. So first off, 10 seconds about who I am. So my name is Friedman. I represent Nuvei and the financial services business development team here in North America. We're a global payments solution provider as well. Many of those in the space. I think what differentiates us is we operate in 200 countries today. We've got about 1,600 people on the ground. We are focused on particularly the e-commerce space. We've tripled our business, so a name that may not be, well, we're now among the leaders globally in this particular space, but 3 years ago we weren't, and we've come a long way, and I think partnerships is at the very heart of that. So this sounds very dramatic, but having the right partnerships is sort of, a difference between life and death in many instances. And taking you kind of out of my current role, I've had a fortunate journey traveling with companies, frankly, American Express, Visa as well, and WorldPay. The first two are, of course, large global enterprises, and I learned a lot there, but quickly became bored. The excitement was with the slightly smaller, high-growth companies like WorldPay and now Nuvei, where clearly lots of lessons there too. And I think as I've listened to many of the comments, I think it starts out kind of going back to the core question, right? What makes the partnership solutions work in the marketplace? It's really spending a good amount of time mapping out a framework of what a partnership even means. What does a partnership mean to you and your business for now and the future? I hear outsourcing, I hear speed or innovation. These are all objectives on themselves or by themselves. But I would say my experience in having experience, not just, by the way, here in the US, I'm originally from the Netherlands, so a real life example is where I was on an assignment for American Express in Europe, and coming in with a large brand like that, you would imagine there's a certain attitude that the brand is recognized. You come in, to your point, look for partnerships, but basically the partner will work for the brand. And it was a lesson to, sure, that's one way of doing it, but it also all goes back to, okay, what is your objective at the end of the day? Okay, are you looking for market entry? Are you looking for acceleration in the market? What are you trying to achieve? And really spending a good amount of time. So what we learned there is what not to do, and that is spend very little time in looking actually what is the cultural attitude in the market to a brand, what you're trying to achieve. For us, it was speed, getting into the market with a specific product, not spending enough time in qualifying who are the right partners for a range of criteria. And this is easier said than done because we're, I think, all sort of operating with a sense of urgency. You want to get things live, products need to get out, speed, speed, speed. Competition is breathing down your neck, but this is where the mistakes are made often. So in that instance, we went in business with a partner that did not have the infrastructure that they claimed to be. We did not do a good job in really qualifying the trust factor. And this is something that the word trust comes up in the conversation. It's difficult to quantify what that means. But clear lessons out of that is that trust is at the heart of everything we do, in payments specifically. If there's no trust in the system or in the people who represent you around the world, or you can have a beautiful, shiny app solution, all sorts of glossy brochures and everything else, but if there's no trust in the system, and we see this in the crypto world today, you lose the entire ecosystem very quickly. Damage gets done very, very quickly to not just your company, but potentially the entire industry. So this is where I would say companies tend to rush too quickly into finding a name, maybe again, a sexy name that happens to be right in front of you, but it's really, I think, the art of slowing down, asking the right questions to qualify the right group for the right objective that you ultimately set for your business. The other differentiator, in addition to many things that you've said, is I think where we differentiate, we believe strongly, is people. We don't talk enough about people. You can come in with a nice API that can be copied pretty quickly often. Technology, of course, is a differentiator, all true, but where rubber meets the road is who are representing you in front of others with partners and your end customers. So we spend a lot of time in recruiting and keeping and motivating an awesome set of people around the world with deep expertise who we believe can add a lot of value to our customer relationships and make that difference on the ground in person. Lastly, I'd say the third point is to really look at not just your customers, but your customers' end customers. So the reason why we have seen enormous success and growth in e-commerce is sort of the obvious here, is the pandemic has led a lot of consumers to go online and buy things online. So that's changed not just consumers and what they do and how they shop, it's the expectations that have changed. They're now much more comfortable about buying things, spending online, internationally, sending money internationally, and suddenly the merchants who we often talk to, they have to reinvent their business. They have to look at how do they expand. So while we are a payments solution provider, our real mission is not just provide payment solutions, it's about looking at payments as a strategic asset instead of an expense. So now you can use payments much more smart to drive growth around the world. If you are a business, all of you are in business, enabling payments and doing it the right way, specifically in local used and known payment methods is critically important in order to get and drive adoption and customer satisfaction. But it is important to understand who are your customers and buyers, and even the banks. I'm glad I'm not representing a bank here, by the way, because everyone is ganging up on the bank, or the banks, and I know that. Ultimately, they are listening to their customers as well. So crypto is becoming a lot more relevant, and if the demand drivers are shifting more toward that, the banks will listen as well. So I think it's, as a community, as an industry, we also don't need to be too, I would say, slowed down by the banks per se, but really looking at, okay, what is the broader ecosystem, and essentially get out of our echo chamber. We all talk to each other. We all look at payments, or we look at remittances. All of it is going to get. It's about the end customer. What are they looking to do, right? So we can call our industry an industry and give it a name, but honestly, I see it all coming together. All these different new payment types, payment methods, solutions. We're all trying to, look at how do we fix problems here near term, but really encouraging to look beyond this sort of first level customer, see what are the broader trends out there that are driving growth, that are driving new adoption, new users, new demographics, by the way, who are completely comfortable with crypto. And we're gonna have survivors in the crypto space who are quite relevant, who we talk to now. And by the way, we should have a conversation where we make it easier for customers to do business, whether it's paying in, paying out. It's all about making it easy and comfortable and creating that trust. And I'll stop my monologue here. And thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And look, what you said about the bank is true. We just would like to create more reaction. It's just too slow. But regulators too. I tell you, I've seen a change in regulators in the United States, in Europe too. We've seen it also in UAE, in other countries where Leon, who's worked with a number of multilateral agencies, regulators are listening. I mean, they want to know. The case of Philippines is very clear. I mean, they want to be able to create solutions for the industry, and that has been a change. That has been a change in the last 10 years. It was not like that. I mean, I see it in the IAC, which is Industry Advisory Council for the state regulators of the United States. And that started because of COVID, because they couldn't do the examinations, because they were late doing this, because they couldn't travel, and this, and they decided, okay, let's talk about it. And that became a group in where industry players will tell the regulators, look, this is the problem that we have, and we need solutions for this. And I've seen that change happening. I think it's happening in Spain too. I mean, we can complain about how slow they are, but they are listening. And we participate in meetings with, for example, this year in June, there is the Global Forum of Remittances, Investment in Development. It's going to be in Nairobi, Kenya. It's done by IFAD, which is a UN, how do we say that? UN division, and it's really regulators who meet, and we partner with them to bring the industry there. And I partner with them because I want the regulators to listen to the industry, and they want us to do the innovation awards in June there, and we told them yes, we will do the innovation awards in remittances, and so I was not going to go there, but you brought the banks in, so we started partnering. I think the regulators are beginning to understand. It's slower, but they're beginning to understand that they also partners in this. And Leon and I had a great experience doing an event in Lagos. And you remember, we had a meeting like that, and we were able to convince 3 people from the bank, from the central bank to come. And it was not easy to convince them to send somebody to the conference. And we did everything so they were there. And then in the middle, everybody started, it became a shouting match, telling them, you regulator this and this and this. And Leon and I had to intervene and says, look, we don't want to lynch them. They're here, don't kill the messenger. They are here to listen. Yes, we can be very mad about what they do, but these guys here are just civil employees. They're listening. They're going to take our story there. We very welcoming that are here. So I have had many fights in my life with regulators, many, but I think that has changed. I think the perception and the perception in the World Bank has changed, and I mean the perception of the importance of remittance has made a change. I mean, when we started, nobody knew what we were doing. People didn't believe even that the migrants were really sending money. So that was a big thing. Nabil, you started this discussion. Give us some your last points of view. After hearing everybody just comment. Yeah, pick your brain.
No, I mean, certainly you've heard it from everybody that kind of this is the way of the future. I mean, if you think, I think we live in blessed times, really, from that perspective. A lot of you had to create money transfer companies from scratch, because that's the only thing you could do at the time. There was no other way. You couldn't go to MoneyGram or Western Union or somebody and say, give me your product, and I'm going to white label it. And the world changed in the last 10 years pretty dramatically about that. It started with open banking and companies like Plaid. Who would ever believe banks would allow companies to plug in electronically into their database and verify a customer or verify a bank account? I mean, this used to be a fort, and nobody gets in, and our information is precious and valuable, and nobody can access it. And just the mentality has completely changed. So, and now in every industry you find the same thing. And I think we're very lucky to have this, because this is truly places where 1 + 1 = 3. Right now, so we're doing our banking app, right? That's our specialty. We're good at figuring out bank relations and so on. I'm going to go and outsource my money transfer business. I am not building a money transfer business and a bank from scratch. I'll never be good at it. I'll never have the good network, and I'll never have the compliance. Might as well give it to the specialist and like Uniteller, and do that with them. If I had to do crypto, I'll go to Eric and say, hey, tell me how this works and make sure I don't get myself in trouble, because they paid for all the mistakes. And they've learned it the hard way. There's a lot of mistakes in financial products, in any product, but financial especially, because it happens very quickly and it's liquid to be made, that you can avoid with partnering with experts like that, with Nuve, if you want to do payments. So, in essence, I think we're very lucky. I think if you recall, the first outsourcer or the first open banking move was made by Deutsche Telekom in the 80s, where they opened terminals to outside providers to come in and do transfers. And nothing from the 80s till PTSD2, or PTSD or PSD, Payment Service Directive, PSD. I have PTSD. And nothing happened. And all of a sudden, the last decade, not even maybe like 5-8 years, the world got upside down. And I think now is a golden opportunity for people to secure those partnerships that are important to their customers and land grab, so that you can gain those customers early on before somebody else does it and takes your customers. So, in every market now, these partnerships are enabling fast starts for any player who wants to come in. And if somebody came in and said, I'm going to start a big remittance company in the US, it used to be a lot more complicated than that. If they came in and said, I want to start a neobank in the US, it used to be a lot more complicated. So it's almost like an invitation for you guys to consider what I said at the beginning, like what's your core and you're good at? What else do your customers need that you need to cover to secure them? This is your exposed flank, right? If I'm a money transfer company to Mexico, and all of a sudden Electra or Banco Azteca or somebody like this comes into the US, launches a neobank, right? And they spend $20 million in marketing, right? How many customers do you think are going to be left for the traditional remittance company that have to go and stand in line and give cash and all that stuff when these guys solve this whole problem? So I think there's a window. We're very lucky to have it, but that window is going to be land grab. And you have to get there fast. And if you don't, I think somebody's going to come in and start eating your lunch very quickly because of that speed to market that's enabled by partnership. So really, and the good thing about, that part of the name change to CrossTech is exactly that phenomenon of, hey, this is not just remittance anymore. Other things are happening, and these are exposed flanks that we have that could be attacked that we need to protect and maybe get ahead of the curve and attack other people and take their lunch. So really, that's kind of my
Thank you. And look, the reason why we exist as CrossTech, or the reason why we exist at this conference is because of partnerships. We since the beginnings, and we started, and some of you were here maybe in 2010, 2011, we started, we do these events to make people partner, basically, to create the environment and to make, to make these partnerships happen, That's the essence of the industry and the essence of what we do, at the end. So thank you very much. Please continue the conversation. Yes, I'm going to give it to you. Please continue the conversation. We're going to have Priscilla tell us what's going to happen next. So thank you very much for participating.
So guys, now it's the fun time. Thank you for being really good students. We have our cocktail hour hosted by Visa, and it's going to be at the Guitar Pool Hotel. So when you get out of here, you make a left, and our team is going to be directing you with signs, so you can go to the Guitar Hotel Pool. And at 7 p.m., we have a special little show, so don't leave early, okay? So now let's have some fun, and remember, you close the deal when you're having the drinks and we're having the deep conversation. So don't miss the opportunity. Thank you.